Hello everyone, Jokozapi here, and in this video I'd like to introduce you to something that I made. I made an API in Haxe for Minecraft. Now you may know about Haxe. It's a programming language and toolkit that is free and open source, and that it allows you to compile your Haxe code to a lot of different other languages, and one of them is Java, which this API uses. I'm going to show you how to set it up and the basics of the API to get you started. So why should you use this? It's for the Haxe enthusiasts like me. I know Minecraft, I like to make plugins in Minecraft, but I also like Haxe, so now I can combine those things. It's also beginner friendly. I think it's an easy to learn language, and I think the API is also easy to get into. I think this API is a little more efficient in the way that it allows you to do more with less code, but also it is a bit more limited than the like Spigot API, for example. So it doesn't have all the features that Spigot has. And your plugins will also run efficiently because the API runs multi-threaded by default. I myself would recommend Visual Studio Code to write Haxe, and that's what I will be showing you. So first of all, you'll need to download Haxe. Currently Haxe 4 is the latest version. So you just go to the website haxe.org and you click the download button. And here you just go ahead and choose whatever is appropriate for you. For me it would be Windows 64. Next step is to install the API, which is just a single command. So you open up a command prompt. Okay, so you go ahead and type in haxelib space install and Minecraft-API. So haxelib will install the API for you. I'm just going to add zip because I'm currently developing this API. You don't have to add zip. So it's going to install it and also install hxjava, which is an official Java dependency for Haxe. Right, next step is to open up your IDE, which again is Visual Studio for me. And you're gonna open the folder you wanna develop your plugin in. So here we go. I started with an empty folder. So the first thing you'll wanna do is actually get a extension for Haxe. So you go to extensions and just look for type in Haxe, and you'll find it at the top. Okay, once you've done that, you can go back to your project and create a file. So you create a new file that's going to be called build.hxml. So in this file you'll configure how your plugin is going to be built, and it just needs a few lines that I'm going to show you here. So it starts with -lib, and then you type in Minecraft API, and then next you'll write class path --class -path, and then a folder where you're going to have your namespace and source files into. So for me that will be source, and then you'll need to write your full namespace here. So for me that's gonna be and then your project name, so something like that, and that's it. Next we can create a folder for your code, so hit new folder, then name it the thing you put here, and then also create folders for your namespace. So every slash here is a new folder. And in this new folder we can create our plugin code. So let's go and create a new file, and I'll call this tutorial. And well, this is basically like the name of my plugin, and then I will append gate to that, which is going to make sense later. And now this file is going to start with a package, and then we will write class, and then space implements, and then we choose gate, and then it will suggest from the Minecraft API, and you import that. And next important thing is that add above your class and :keep, so it will compile properly, and then we'll go ahead and implement the interface. So if I just save this file, we'll get the compiler telling me that it's missing some functions. So the functions are actually, I think it would auto suggest that. There we go. So we got our, this might be familiar to you, the enable and disable function. This is when the server enables your plugin and when the server disables your plugin. And in here we can really do anything. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'll keep it simple and use Haxe's trace function and just say hello world. And in disable we can do something similar. Goodbye. So now we're going to compile this, and in Visual Studio it's really easy, but essentially what you have to do regardless of your IDE is open up a command prompt or something, or go to the terminal and type Haxe. You have to open your command prompt in this same folder, otherwise it won't work. But if you do, you can type in Haxe and then build dot, or just build, I think. Let's see. Oh, no, it has to be. So this is a reference to the file we made earlier. And now it will build. There we go. And so the library will take care of some things here and just output you the jar file. The jar file here is your plugin, and you're going to move that into your server later. But to make compilation a bit easier in Visual Studio Code, you can use the run and debug option and create a launch.json file, and then choose hold on. So you click that and you choose Haxe interpreter, and it will generate this file for you, which is just fine the way it is. And now it will, if you launch this project with F5, it'll detect your build file and just run that. So your compilation is just as easy as a press of F5. And it'll show you in the debug console the output. Alright, so now we're going to test our plugin. So open up the folder where you have your Spigot server, and go to your plugins directory and make sure you have the loader in here, which you can download. This is the one thing you need to get these plugins to work. This is this loader I made myself, so you can download this and you have to add it to your plugins directory. And after you've done that, you can add your the plugin we just made. So this jar file we can copy into here, and now we can just run our server and see what happens. So here we go. First of all, the loader enabled, and the loader says it's enabling one Haxe plugin. It's called tutorial, enabling tutorial, and here we go, our trace, hello world from line 9, and enabled, and then it's done. So you may have noticed up here there's an error, and that is because Spigot will try to load any jar file in your plugins directory, and our Haxe plugin is not directly compatible. So this error is no problem, but to avoid it you would have to go to your plugins directory again. You'll notice the loader also has its own folder now, so you would have to move your plugin into this directory and it'll also load from here, but without the error. So you can choose where you put your plugin, either in here or in there. Now I would have to stop the server first. As you can see, it says disabling and goodbye, so that works fine. Now we move this in here and it would load up the same way, but without the error. You can rename your plugin to whatever you like. Really, it'll take the name from the gate class that you made. So now that you've verified that your plugin works, you'll want to know how to do something more interesting with this API. So I'll quickly go through some of the basic things. The more in-depth stuff you can do with the API I'll cover in a different video, because it would get way too long otherwise. But here we go. The basics that I'm gonna go over now are the logger and debugger and how to register events and commands. So let's start with the logger, because these traces are, you know, easy, but you don't have that much control over them. So let's remove these for now. So you'll notice you've got a plugin variable in this function. You can use that to access a lot of things, and one of them is the logger. It's here, it's called console logger. So with the console logger you can just say tell and say hello world. So this logger has multiple logging levels that you can decide to mute or unmute individually. So if I press, if I show the suggestions for parameters here, you'll see the severity, it's what I called it. So you can say, well, you have to do it like this. So this is the default, but you can choose to say it's a sorry, you can choose to say it's a warning or an error or just a general notice. And each of these levels you could say mute or unmute at any time, so you wouldn't have to remove all your logs once you're done with your plugin or something like that. Now let's get over the debugger as well, because that is something a little different. Debugger has log and warn, most importantly. But the thing about the debugger is, let's just write something here. The thing about the debugger is that you can choose not to compile these logs at all, so that would be a little bit of a performance increase on your final plugin. Let's see, so we have log and warn here. So these things won't do anything by default, but they can be conditionally compiled, and you do that in your build file. You add d-d and then mc_debug to enable debugger logs, and you add dwarn to enable the warnings. And lastly, you also have to give the debugger a logger yourself. You do that by giving it the logger holder. Now let's see if this works. So we compile it. So we got the hello world, this time without a line, because it's not a trace anymore. This time we used the console logger. We got debugging and warning, and that's it. Now let's see what happens if I remove, for example, the mc_debug compilation flag. So your code here won't have to be changed. You can just remove the flag and recompile, and now the debugging message should be gone, and it shouldn't even be compiled. Here we go. So now we have just warning and hello world. So that's great. So let's get rid of that. Now to mute a console log, we go to the console logger and say set severity level mute, and then we choose like log, for example, and then we say true. So true means muted, false means unmuted, and this way we won't see hello world anymore, although it will still be compiled. Okay, here we go. Now let's move on to more interesting things like the events. So to register events and commands and also recipes, you need to access the register. So go to your plugin and go to get register, and then call register event. So register event, and now you'll see we need an event. So how do we get that? We'll create a new file in here, or you could maybe create a folder called events and make it in there, but I'll keep it simple and create an event here. So I'll call this example event.hx, make it a class, and now we implement event. Oops. That was a typo. Implements event, and I'll just let Visual Studio Code suggest me what to implement. Well, firstly we import it and then we implement. So event simply has a name and a function that tells what to do when it occurs. So for name, name is actually important because that determines what event will trigger this. So for this I recommend you look up the Spigot API's available events and copy the name from there. So I'll go do that right now. So oops, this is the Spigot I'm talking about, but for the events I'll just Google that, Google the API reference. I'm going to implement a player interact event, so I'll just take that name and put it there. This is not case sensitive, and I forgot the return statement. There we go. So now let's keep it simple. In here we have involvement, which is event. We have some event data that's involved in the event, and from there we can get basically everything that's available. Usually that's like blocks or entities or values, but in this case it would be a player. So the player interact event should always involve one player, so it would be safe to do something like this. For player equals involvement get players, and then the first. So here we have our player, and now we can do something like player dot tell hello world. There we go again. But this will basically mean whenever the player interacts at all, he will get a message saying hello world. We can also do something maybe more fun, like I don't know, add some velocity. Let's see. So now we will launch in the air if we interact. So that's basically it. Now, yeah, let's just see if that works. So we'll compile again. Oh, hold on, we can't compile yet, we have an error because we forgot this function wanted an event. So now we can do this new example event, no example event, right. We forgot the constructor, which is a requirement for Haxe classes, but it's a very easy fix. Here we go. Okay, so our tutorial plugin enabled successfully. It has found the player interact event, yeah, and it enabled. So let's get into the game. Okay, here we are in the game. So yeah, let's check it out. Whee! So there it is. It says hello world to me, and I was flying into the air because that's what I did in the code. So yeah, there you go. The loader has a few comments that will display all the comments available in Haxe plugins and will tell you what Haxe plugins are loaded. So we're going to take a look at commands now. So I stopped the server. Now let's do like something very similar, really. Get register, and then we do register comment, and then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna make a new class, but it's gonna be a comment. So new file, example comment, and package class example comment, and we'll implement comment. There we go, and then we hit save, so it will run error check, and then we apply the suggestions, and here we go. So this may look a bit more scary, but it's really mostly the same thing. So here, get name, this is gonna be your command name, so what the user is gonna have to type in to fire the commands. So let's do something like foo, and we got a bunch of functions down here. They look similar because they are. So each of these functions is what the command will do, but separated by the executor. So if the command is fired by a player, it's gonna do this. If the command is fired by the console, it's gonna do this. But you may think, but I just want the same thing. And that's really easy too. You can just create a function here, like public function execute, and you're gonna take the arguments can't type. It's gonna be an, well, let's say inert collection string. And then we can do something in here. However, we do need some sort of executor, so that would be a message receiver. That would work. And then we can do executor dot, hold on. We need to import this first, otherwise we don't have suggestions. Executor dot tell, you guessed it, hello world. It depends on your plugin what you want to do here. So in all these functions we can just call execute, and then we just give the executor and the arguments. And let's just copy that over to these. Let's say something else. Executor dot tell, you told me, that will do arguments, so we can see what our arguments are. And of course we're gonna need the constructor. And now we'll create our command in here. Name example command. And there we go. Let's recompile this. Okay, so we can see now that it has registered our event and our command foo. And it will also give us the usage. It's HXP and then T because our plugin is called tutorial and our commands will be shortened by all the capitals used in the name. So this is just to make things more sort of unified and easy. Commands automatically are organized this way for Haxe plugins. So let's try this command here. So hxp t foo, and there we go. It's not case sensitive. You can ignore this for now, but here we go. It says hello world and you told me, well, nothing, because I didn't add any more arguments. So if we add more arguments, something or bar, whatever, we'll get hello world again and you told me something bar. So that's it, and we can do that from the game as well. Here we are. So slash hxp t foo something. There we go. It says hello world, you told me something. So that's basically it for the basics. There's obviously a lot more to it, to the API and what you can do with this, but for now I'll leave it at this because this video is getting very long. So yeah, I hope you'll give this API a shot, maybe have some fun with Haxe language and Minecraft. The API is fully documented, so the documentation might help you out where you can figure it out. It's also integrated in Visual Studio Code. If you hover over any function or class, you'll get a little description. If you do run into any bugs, which really could happen, because it's very experimental stuff still, but please feel free to report them at the GitHub page. And yeah, with that, I wish you happy coding, and see you next time.